32 local time. This Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter is climbing skyward carrying weapons that shouldn't exist. Underneath each wing hangs an American GBU-62 JDAM-ER bomb, mounted onto NATO ejector racks, jury-rigged with voltage regulators and electrical tape. In 15 minutes, this Cold War relic would thread through the most lethal air defense network on Earth to deliver 1,000 pounds of GPS-guided democracy onto a Russian ammunition depot. The S-400 search radar that's been watching him suddenly shifts to tracking mode. The tone in his headset changes from intermittent chirps to a steady warble. He's been acquired. At this range, the system's 4.8 and 6 missile can reach him in 62 seconds. He triggers the chaff dispenser, metallic clouds blooming behind the MiG as he dives hard, trading altitude for speed. But the chaff creates an unexpected problem. The radar bloom doesn't just confuse the S-400, it lights up every passive sensor within 100 kilometers. Soon, a roving Su-35 patrol is vectoring from the northeast. The dive takes him through 25,000 feet, airspeed building to 600 knots. The S-400 locked brakes, its radar struggling to maintain track through the chaff and rapid altitude change. But descending solves one problem while creating another. His RWR screams a new warning. Buck M3 acquisition radar, much closer, scanning in rapid bursts. He's dropped straight into its optimal engagement envelope. The Buck M3 you see here specializes in destroying aircraft between 15,000 and 30,000 feet, exactly where he just placed himself. Unlike the long-range S-400, which requires time to calculate intercepts, the Buck can engage in under 20 seconds at this range. The GPS pre-alignment sequence for the JDAMs must happen now. Each bomb needs a full satellite lock and position update to achieve its advertised 5-meter accuracy. He levels out at 20,000 feet, flying straight for 15 crucial seconds while the weapons computers talk to space. The alignment bar creeps across his display. 40%, 60%, 80%. New contact. An Su-35. It's 60 kilometers and closing at Mach 1.4. At this rate, the Russian fighter will be within R-77 missile range in 3 minutes. The GPS alignment completes just as his missile approach warning system detects the Su-35's radar positioning from search to track mode. Time to move. He banks hard right, then immediately reverses, creating an S-turn that forces the Buck operators to restart their firing solution. But each defensive maneuver burns fuel that he'll need for the return flight. The gauge already shows 200 kilograms below planned consumption. If this keeps up, he'll have to choose between completing the mission or having enough fuel to make it home. The Su-35 pilot is good. Instead of pursuing directly, he's calculating an intercept vector that will put his MiG between the fighter and the S-400 battery, a classic hammer and anvil technique. The Su-35 would drive him toward the S-400's kill zone like a sheepdog herding prey. Turn away from the fighter, fly into the SAM. Evade the SAM, give the fighter an easy shot. There are no good options. The target data from Malinivka glows on his display. Satellite imagery from 6 hours ago shows vehicle movement consistent with a major ammunition transfer. The 39th Guards are stockpiling for a push towards Pokrovsk. This strike could cripple their offensive for weeks, but reaching the target would mean threading through interlocking SAM sites with an Su-35 behind him and his fuel gauge close to red. But just as he calculated his attack vector, GPS jamming suddenly hits like a sledgehammer. His navigation display buzzes with static as Russian electronic warfare units flood all frequencies with noise. The JDAM-ER bombs automatically switch to backup INS mode, but accuracy degrades instantly. From 3-meter CEP,
the night was unnervingly still along the front lines of eastern Ukraine. Villagers who had long since grown used to the constant thunder of artillery noticed something strange, a silence, almost suffocating, as if the air itself was waiting for something. The silence was deceptive. Deep inside Ukrainian territory, far from the eyes of Russian drones and spies, an operation unlike any before was already in motion. For weeks, intelligence officers had been tracking a massive Russian ammunition depot hidden just beyond the occupied zone. It wasn't just any depot. It was one of the largest stockpiles Moscow had moved into Ukraine since the war began. Trainloads of rockets, shells, mortars, and small arms ammunition were being funneled there, stacked into warehouses and dug into underground bunkers. Satellite images showed trucks arriving day and night. The depot was the lifeline of Russia's front line, a heartbeat pumping bullets and explosives to thousands of troops fighting in Donetsk and Luhansk. Destroy it, and Russia's capacity to fight would be crippled for weeks, maybe even months. Ukraine knew this, and that night, under a moonless sky, the plan came alive. Inside a dimly lit command center, Ukrainian officers huddled around monitors glowing with satellite imagery. A red circle marked the exact location. The depot lay near a small industrial town, hidden inside what used to be a grain storage complex. Russian troops believed they were safe. They had placed air defenses around it, Pantsir systems, S-300 launchers, and electronic jammers. But Ukraine had studied it all, down to the smallest detail. Colonel Mikola, a seasoned artillery commander, leaned over the map. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the gravity of the moment. Tonight, we cut the artery, he said. On a nearby airfield, crews prepared HIMARS launchers and long-range Storm Shadow missiles. The operation was codenamed Silent Thunder. Ukrainian drone operators were already in the sky, circling high above Russian territory, invisible to radar, sending back live feeds. They confirmed the target, warehouses packed with ammunition, guarded but vulnerable. At precisely 17 a.m., the order was given. The first missile streaked into the night. A flash of fire followed by a scream through the air. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the horizon lit up like dawn. The missiles slammed into the depot, punching through the roofs of warehouses. For a moment, there was silence again. Then, the earth exploded. One missile found its mark inside a bunker filled with artillery shells. The chain reaction was instant. The ground heaved as if struck by an earthquake. A thunderous roar rolled across the countryside. Windows shattered miles away, and a giant mushroom of fire and smoke clawed into the sky. Russian soldiers guarding the site were thrown to the ground. Vehicles flipped. Communication lines went dark. Those who survived stumbled in shock, ears ringing.